Right, welcome to this video where today we are going to cover an introduction to sketching in SolidWorks. By the time you've watched this video, you will be able to create a part, insert a new sketch, insert sketch geometry, understand the relationship between sketch dimensions and sketch relations, and then lastly, extrude your sketch. Let's get started. Alright, so after you've opened up SolidWorks, you'll get to this screen, which is empty. Sometimes there will be a little pop-up window asking you what do you want to create, a sketch, part, or a drawing, or an assembly. In this case, this is not what we're seeing. So in order to create a new part, you need to go to the top and click New. Then this window will pop up. This is the window that will greet you sometimes as soon as you open up SolidWorks. But in this case, when we click New Part, it opens up, and then you can see there's an option to create a part. So if you click on that and you say OK, it will open up a new part for you. Now I suggest as soon as you've opened up this part, go and save it. It is just good practice to save regularly for in case you get into the situation where the power goes out or your computer freezes and you lose a lot of the work that you've already done. Saving regularly helps that you do not lose work when unforeseen situations happen. So I'm going to quickly save it. And I'm just going to say intro sketching. Alright, so I've saved it now. You see again your canvas is empty. There are 3 default planes that is always given to you when you open up a part. They are sometimes, or usually, they are hidden, so you don't see them. I have just made them visible, and you can clearly see that there are 3 of them, all 3 perpendicular to each other, and they all cross in the middle, which is your origin point. And they're labeled front, top, and right planes. Now you can click on whichever one you want to get started drawing on. For me, I'm going to click on the front plane. If you click on it, a little box appears and you can see there is the sketch option. And as soon as you click on it, the view will normalize towards you and be parallel with your screen. Right, so I'm going to go back and hide my planes. You will see there's a nice red origin point allocated for you with arrows showing up and to the right. This is just the midpoint of your part. I suggest you always try and start drawing from the midpoint as it makes your life easier on the road ahead. Before we get started in sketching a part, there's just a few things that I want to highlight to you that you need to take into account or be familiar with before you get started with your sketch. You will see there in the corner there is a little 2 options that you can choose from, either a little cross, red cross, or an icon showing you exiting the sketch. This corner, which is usually the right upper corner of your sketch, is called the confirmation corner. This tells you if you are currently in the sketch environment or not by having this icon exit sketch active. If that icon is not there, then you know you're not currently in a sketch, busy editing it. But if it is there, it means you are currently sketching. When you click on it, you will exit the sketch and all the changes you've made to the sketch will be saved. If you click on the red X, you will also exit the sketch, but all your changes will be discarded. The exit sketch icon may sometimes be replaced by a little green check mark. That is just when you are in a feature mode or busy editing a feature option and you want to confirm your changes, you can click on that green checkbox in the confirmation corner. SolidWorks also offers you a rich variety of sketching tools that you can use. They are usually all shown in this tab, sketching tab. You can see there's the line, circle, spline, ellipse, rectangle, straight slot, and then there's some other features that you can use in your sketch environment, mirror entities, as well as linear sketch pattern to help you draw the part that you want to have. There are usually two techniques that you use when sketching, either the click-click or the click-drag method. For instance, if I go and I draw a line and I start from the origin, I can click on the origin, telling SolidWorks this is where my line needs to start. I click and then I move my mouse to wherever I want the line to end, and I click again. And that is how I create a line. Another option is to, if I want to create a line as well, I click on the origin, telling SolidWorks where it needs to start, and then I hold in my mouse and I drag it to the end position of where the line needs to stop, and I drop the line and it's automatically created. Two different methods, same result. It is just what you find more convenient to use. You can use that method. There are different ways to select the sketch tool. For instance, in the line, you can go up to the sketch tab and you can see there's the line sketch tool, and I can just click it and it will automatically select the line tool and I can start sketching. Another way you can go about doing this is to go to the tools menu and you click down, and as you go down you will get to sketch entities, and there it is all the way at the top, the line feature. Then the third way is a shortcut method. If you click on the S key on your keyboard, you will see a little box pops up, and usually the line tool is there as well. That is if you don't want to use your mouse, if you don't want to use your mouse and scroll all the way to the left top, you want to select an option right there where your mouse cursor is. You can just press the S key and it will appear and you can select the line feature. Sometimes you select a sketch tool by mistake. For instance, if I select the line tool and I actually wanted to select the triangle tool and I want to deselect the line tool, you can just click on the line tool again and it will deselect it. Or if it's selected, you can press the escape key and it will deselect it. All right, so we're gonna get started with drawing our first sketch geometry. I'm going to press the S key and I'm going to select line, and I'm going to start at the origin. I'm going to draw a line that is vertical to the origin. I'm going to click again, and then I'm going to go at an angle and click it again. Just going to press escape to cancel it. If we look at this line that I've created that is vertical, you can see there is already two little green boxes that have been created while I was drawing it. The first one is a little line with a dot, and you can see as I hover across it, it says coincident. That means the one point of the line is coincident with the origin. And then if I hover to the other side, you can see horizontal, meaning that the line is horizontal with the origin. This is called relations, and there is a lot of different relationships that you can create between geometry features to help them capture the design intent that you are trying to sketch in this part. I'm going to reselect the line tool again, and I'm going to continue sketching. You can see as I sketch, yellow lines as well as blue lines appear that you can use to guide you in sketching. The yellow lines are called inference lines, and they are merely there to guide you when you're sketching, either helping you to make a line that is perpendicular to the last line you've just sketched. You can see as I go along the inference line, the yellow box appears showing me that if I create this line, it will be perpendicular relationship to the line I just created, or you can make it parallel to the line you've already created. The blue line is known as a reference line, and that only helps you to create a reference to the other lines or points you've already created. You can see as I go and I drag my line, blue lines appear showing me that there is a possible relationship between the endpoint there, or if I drag it up until just vertical to the origin point, you will see it telling me, right, the endpoint of this line you're about to create is vertical with the origin. So if I click that and I go down, I know that a vertical relationship will be created between the line and the origin. And there is how you create a very simple sketch geometry. The sketcher has many feedback options that help you to visualize or determine the size of your sketch that you are sketching. If I select the line tool and I make another line here, and if we zoom into my cursor, you will see there is a little line underneath the pencil telling me that I'm busy sketching a line. And as I go and I increase the length of my line, you can see there is a value changing accordingly to the size or the length of the line I'm about to create. It also shows me possible relationships in yellow boxes. So this horizontal relationship will be created automatically between the line and the origin point. Also, you can go from a straight line to creating a circle by retracting your cursor back into the line and endpoint, and when you go back, it starts making a circle. This is a quarter circle. Again, you can see R being the radius of the circle. If I increase the radius, you can see the R value increases. After you've created a line, you can also use some feedback to start creating new lines. You can see as I hover across this line, a little box appears showing me that that is the midpoint of that line. So if I wanted to go and create a line that starts from the midpoint of the previous line, I just hover over this line and it will automatically pop up where the midpoint is of that line. Similarly with the circle or the quarter circle I've created, when I hover across it, you will see the midpoint appears and I can start drawing from there if I wish to. Always make sure that when you sketch a geometry that you close the sketch. In this case, I've got some open-ended lines that is in my sketch, and that will cause an error if you try to extrude it. So you can just delete it. And now you can see a nicely closed sketch. Usually when your sketch is closed, SolidWorks will fill it in by coloring it in gray. Then that is a good indication that there is a closed geometry which you can use for extrusion. Next, we have a look at the status of the sketch after you've drawn it. The status of the sketch can be defined in three definitions. It's either underdefined, fully defined, or overdefined. And a way for you to determine which state your sketch is in is if you go to the bottom right of your sketch, you can see there is the definition underdefined in this case. What underdefined means is there's still a lot of unknowns in your sketch that needs to be defined before you can confidently say that your sketch is complete and all information is given to SolidWorks. Fully defined obviously means that everything that you've given the sketch fully defines it in terms of size and position on the canvas. And overdefined is when you have conflicting relations or conflicting dimensions, causing it to not being able to know the exact size or position of a part. Fully defined geometry in a sketch are usually shown as black. You can see this line here is black and this line here is black, but you will see the line is black, but the point is blue of that line. That basically means that the orientation of the line is set because there's a relationship between the line being vertical with the origin, but it does not know the length. So if you grab onto the blue point, you can easily change the length by dragging it up and down. I'm unable, however, to drag it left or right because the relationship vertical with the origin is keeping me from doing that. You will see some of the lines are blue as well as the points. That just means that the orientation of the line can be changed. If I go and I grab a hold of this point, you can see that I can change it. I can change the size as well as the orientation of the line. It is always a good way to determine what part of your sketch is underdefined by grabbing a hold of the blue lines in your sketch and just wiggling it to see what happens. So in this line is blue. If I grab a hold of it, you can see I can move it up and down. So then already you know, all right, it does not know where it needs to be in position in the sketch. So I need to define it somehow as a function of the origin point. Or its length can change, and you can see those two lines' lengths change as well as their position. So those are two unknowns that I still need to define for SolidWorks before the sketch can be fully defined. Two ways you can go about defining or helping the sketch to be fully defined is to start inserting relations between your sketch geometry as well as dimensions that you want the size of the part to be. In this case, if you want to add relationships, I want to add that this line and that line needs to be perpendicular, I select them both and then I can create a relationship. To create relationships between multiple entities in your sketch, you need to hold down the control key. So I first select the line, I hold down the control key and I select the other line, and you can see there is a box that pops up and listing the different relationships that there are that I can create. So I'm just going to redo that. And you can see there is the box that pops up. So I can make it horizontal, I can make it vertical, collinear, or perpendicular. Perpendicular is the one I want, and obviously there's others that can make it. I can make it equal to each other. That just means equal in length. I can make them parallel to each other. In this case, I just want to make it perpendicular, so I'm going to select that option. Now if I go and I reselect these lines, you can see that the little green boxes appear showing me the relationships already created. But also on the left, you can see it's saying line 2 and line 3 and existing relationships perpendicular. If you want to see all the relations that's been created on your sketch, you can go and make them visible by going to the View option in the menu and then showing Hide Show. And right at the bottom there is Sketch Relations. So when I select that, you can see all the relationships appear and you can see which ones are active and what. So if I hover over the parallel relationship, you can see the lines that are parallel to each other is highlighted, as well as little green boxes turns blue when I select it. That's an easy way for you to quickly see which relations has been created. Also, if you do not want relations to be automatically created as you draw, you can turn it off by going to Tools, going to Sketch Settings, and then turning off automatic relations. In my case, I'm going to keep it active. Now we've created all the relations that we want. We are fairly happy with that. If we go and we now try and move it about, you would see that the design intent sort of stays the same because we have given it the necessary relations. The only thing that is changing now is the length of our lines. Their orientation is set as a result of the relations we've created. So next we now need to go and add dimensions to these lines. When we want to add dimensions to a lines, we use the Smart Dimension tool. You can find it on the left top corner of your screen. You can see there stands Smart Dimension. You can click that. Or if you want, you can go and right click and select Smart Dimension. Or if you click again your S key on your keyboard, the Smart Dimension will appear there as well. The Smart Dimension is really helpful as it gives you a preview of what you are trying to measure. For instance, if we want to measure or give a dimension for the distance between the endpoint here and the endpoint at the top, we can click on each point and you would see a preview will appear showing me the distance between the 2 points. Sometimes SolidWorks can't read your mind in exactly what you want to measure, so you need to tell it by moving your cursor about. You can see as I move it, you can see the orientation of the dimension changes. So either if I want to have a straight line between the two lines, then this would be the dimension that I use, or if I want to know the vertical parallel distance between the two, then I need to take this dimension. Similarly, if I want to know the distance between them or the height distance, then I need to move a bit out and you'll see it'll change over to this dimension. Once you are happy with the dimension you want, you can either click again and drop it on the canvas, or if you don't want it to go about changing every time you move your mouse, you can go to the dimension that you want and you can click the right mouse button and it will lock the dimension in that position. So now if I want to try and change it, you will see that it does not, it is locked in this configuration. Right, so the first dimension that we're gonna give, when I hover over the line, you will see it gets highlighted in orange, meaning that it will be selected once I click on it. And then when I click, you will see a dimension is being previewed as 9.5 millimeters. Now, when I'm happy with where it needs to be on the canvas, I can click again and it will drop it, and a modified tool will come up showing me the current size or the current length of this line. Now, either you can go and just press the green checkbox saying you're happy with that value, you can cancel it and the box will disappear, or you can enter this value and change it. In my case, I want to change it to 20, so I can use my keyboard and select it as 20. And when I'm happy with that, I can just press enter and it will update accordingly. Now you can see the value of this length is 20 and my design intent is still intact because of the relations I've created. You can always go back and change the value of a dimension by hovering over it. It turns orange, and double clicking on it, and you will see the modified box comes back, and you can change the value whichever you want to. Now we can go and add all the other dimensions for the lines that we want. So we've already given that line a length of 20. We also want to say that this point and that point needs to be a distance away from each other. That is 50. We want the length of this line to be 32. We want the length of this line to be 25. We can go and we can drag the dimensions as well a bit so that you can easily see it. Now, by looking at this, there is still some green features in my sketch. You can see this dot that we mentioned before has turned black because we've given it a length. So if you drag it, you see it doesn't change orientation. You can see that dot, it still changes a bit here. Even though its length is set, there is still some movement for it to move because we haven't fully defined its position on the canvas. And the same goes for this. You can see the only undefined feature here is the position of this right side of the sketch, and you can literally drag it and you can change the angle. So that is the only unknown that we have. We need to specify the angle between this horizontal line here and the line going diagonally to the right top. Now, the nice thing about the Smart Dimension tool, it does not only give you the ability to specify the length of the line, but you can also use it to specify the gradient or the angle between different lines. So to do that, I'm going to select my dimension tool again by pressing S. I'm going to select my Smart Dimension tool, and now what I do is I click on this line. If I click on the line, you would see automatically the length preview comes up, but I want the angle between the line and the horizontal. So I just go and I hover over the horizontal line. You can see it gets highlighted in orange again, and I click and it upgrades it, or it changes the preview to an angle. And you can see it's currently at 130 degrees. There's different ways. You can either use the interior angle, or if you're more or you want to specify the exterior angle, you can change your mouse and you can see it goes to the outside angle. Depending on which angle you want, you just need to change the preview. So in my case, I want the internal angle, and I want to set that to 135 degrees. And there we go. The sketch is now fully defined. You can see all the sketch geometry has turned black. Also at the bottom, if we have a look, you can see it tells me it is fully defined. So I am happy with that. Once you have created your sketch, you've added the sketch geometry and you've given it the relevant relations and dimensions to make the sketch fully defined, we can now go and extrude the feature. There are two ways you can go about extruding a sketch, either while you're still in the sketch environment, shown to you by the little sketch icon in our confirmation corner. You can go over and change to the Features tab. So we're currently in the Sketch tab. You can change to the Features tab, click it, and then you can see there's an option, Extruded Boss Base. Once you click that, a preview will be shown as how it will be extruded. You will see the view has changed from being parallel to my screen to a trimetric view. That is just to make it easier for you to see the preview of how the sketch will be extruded. There's always a default depth given. We can change that depth. So we are going to change it to 6 millimeters, and how you go about doing it is on the left side, you would see there is direction 1 as blind and the distance 1 given as 10 millimeters. So we are just going to change that to 6. We're going to press enter. You can see that preview is updated accordingly. Another way you can go about determining the depth of the extrusion is to use this cursor here, or handle, and you can see when I go and I hover on it, it turns orange, meaning when I press it, it will be selected. And you can see as I go, I can drag it outwards, increasing the depth of the extrusion. A ruler also appears showing you what the depth will be, and you can see that goes, it increases in depth to 20 millimeters. So I'm still fine with 6. I'm just going to leave it at that. Also, if you've got 2 directions, you can extrude the sketch into both directions. It does not need to be only one. You can see you can select the arrow there on the other side, and you can go about and extrude it in the other direction as well. For my case, I only want it in one direction, so I can deselect direction 2 on the left side of the screen by deselecting it. Once I am happy with my extrusion being 6 millimeters, that's the depth I want, I can go and click the OK or the check mark at the left side of the panel, or I can go to the confirmation corner and just click the green checkbox saying I am happy with that. And there you go. You have just created the first feature of your part using the sketch functionality of SolidWorks. And now you can start building your part by creating multiple sketches and extruding them until you get the finished product. Right, now we are going to create another part using all the skills that we've learned in this video to help us do it. So, new part, double click. Again, I want to draw in the front plane, so I'm going to hover over the front and the left. I'm going to click once, and you see the little box appear, and I'm going to say sketch, normalize it towards the screen. I'm going to start from the origin, going to select the sketch tool, and I'm going to drag. It's automatically creating the horizontal relationship with the origin. I'm going to go up. It's going to create a vertical relationship. I'm going to put it a little bit straight, like that. And then I wanted to go all the way back to the origin, so I hover my cursor and the blue line appears telling me that it's vertical with the origin. I'm going to click and I'm going to close the sketch. Right, so there is my sketch. I'm fairly happy with the relationships I've created. The vertical and horizontal relationships have been automatically added as I've sketched the part, so I'm happy with that. You can see already some of the lines have turned black. There's still some points that are blue, showing that the length is still not specified. I'm now going to specify the dimensions, the lengths of these lines. So I'm going to select my Smart Dimension tool. The bottom one is 100, so I want that to be 100. Then this line needs to be 35, and the distance between that point and that point, you can see again I need to determine what it is exactly I want to measure. I want the distance between the 2 vertical lines, so this is the one I want, so I can lock it in so it won't change anymore. And I can say that needs to be 60. And then the only other things I want to add now is the angles between some of the lines. So this line, the angle between these 2 lines needs to be 100 degrees. And similarly, the angle between these 2 lines need to be 135. And now you can see my sketch is fully defined. All the lines and endpoints have turned black. You can see at the bottom it also says the sketch is fully defined, so I've given it all the information it needs to now go and extrude it. Another way you can select extrusion is if you exit the sketch. You can see I've now exited the sketch environment. I can still go to the Features tab, click Extruded Boss Base, but now SolidWorks tells me that you need to select what needs to be extruded. I can go and select the sketch like this, and it will preview it for me. In this case, I want to extrude it by 25 millimeters, so now I'm going to grab a hold of the arrow here, and using the ruler, I can go and say 25 millimeters. I am happy with that, and there is my part. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that this has helped you understand how to go about creating a sketch geometry in SolidWorks and how to go from there, adding relations, adding dimensions, and getting the sketch to be fully defined, and then extruding it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment sections below. Thank you for watching. Bye.